This is macOS Ken.
The iPhone 15 Pro heating thing is real. iPhone 15 appears to be having car trouble. And cloudy with a chance of nothing on your Apple Watch. It is Monday, the 2nd of October, 2023. I'm Ken Ray, and this is news from macOS Ken, brought to you by yours truly and supported by people like you, patrons through Patreon. Find out more and add your support at patreon.com/macOSKen. It looks like at least some of the reported heating issues around iPhone 15 Pro and iPhone 15 Pro Max are actual things. I told you last week of complaints from some that their new phones were getting too hot when playing games or making FaceTime calls. Some suggested that certain apps like Instagram were the issue. TF International analyst Ming-Chi Kuo suggested that the problem might be structural, that the phone's design and its use of titanium instead of stainless steel could be the culprit. Now a piece from CNET has Apple responding to the whole heated thing. The Cupertino company indicates that there are a few issues at play, though the use of titanium and the device's structural design are not among them. In a statement to CNET, Apple was quoted as saying, "We have identified a few conditions which can cause iPhone to run warmer than expected. The device may feel warmer during the first few days after setting up or restoring the device because of increased background activity. We have also found a bug in iOS 17 that is impacting some users and will be addressed in a software update. Another issue involves some recent updates to third-party apps that are causing them to overload the system. We're working with these app developers on fixes that are in the process of rolling out." While Apple is not quoted mentioning Instagram specifically, that app does appear to be one of the overheaters. According to CNET, Apple explained that recent updates to some third-party applications on iOS 17, like Instagram, Asphalt 9, and Uber, overload the A17 Pro chip's CPU, causing the iPhone to get warmer than normal. The company is working with third-party developers to implement fixes. As a result, Instagram released an updated version of its app on the 27th of September. iPhone 15 Pro can be said to be hot in more ways than one. In addition to the technical issues, there is still a wait for the devices, though a piece from Apple Insider says that is getting shorter. The site's had a look at the third week of JP Morgan's product availability tracker. On the consumer end, waits for the iPhone 15 and iPhone 15 Plus average out to 17 days globally. That is the same wait as seen for those models last week. It's also better or worse than last year. Depends how you look at it. This time last year, waits for iPhone 14 and 14 Plus were much shorter, clocking in at 3 days and immediately available, respectively. While that might sound like good news for this year's consumer-end phone, JP Morgan attributes this year's longer wait to a slower-than-expected production ramp. It is the Pro end of the line that has seen its wait time shorten, though the wait is still considerable. Globally, waits for the iPhone 15 Pro averaged to 29 days, down from last week's 36-day wait. The wait for iPhone 15 Pro Max averages out to 46 days, down from last week's 54-day wait. Surprisingly, those waits are said by JP Morgan to be longer than this time last year, when waits for iPhone 14 Pro stood at 31 days, while the Pro Max wait was 39. The firm puts the waits for this year's Pro models down to a combination of early order momentum and slower supply ramp. JP Morgan has a buy rating on Apple shares. The firm's price target on the shares is $230. A couple of problems reported with cars and the iPhone 15 line. One that's keeping CarPlay from working, and one that's doing something to Apple Pay. Starting with the CarPlay problem, a piece from Mac Rumors says it's not working for some iPhone 15 owners. An issue that the piece says is likely linked to the transition to USB-C. According to the report, Many cars, even some that are more recent, have only USB-A ports and not USB-C ports, so a USB-A to USB-C cable is required. Unfortunately, it appears that not all USB-A to USB-C cables on the market will work, and some that work in certain vehicles will not work in others. I got an email from Mike last week that was sort of addressing this issue. He wanted to know why Apple doesn't make a USB-A to USB-C cable of its own, as these are necessary for some cars, including his. I wondered why Mike didn't just turn to a third-party solution. I'm sorry that I didn't and don't have an answer for you, Mike. The good news is some third-party solutions are said to work, though it seems kind of hit or miss. While the piece says some users were able to get CarPlay to work with USB-A to USB-C cables like those from Borking, it goes on to say trying a variety of cables, specifically those from known brands with data transfer support, seems to be the best way to get CarPlay to work, but it is worth noting that some people have not been able to get iPhone 15 CarPlay to work, even with Apple's adapters and cables. While Apple does not seem to have commented officially on the issue, the Mac Rumors reader says the issue has been reported to Apple and that Apple is working on a fix for the problem. The way the site sees it, CarPlay users may need to transition to different cables. It's also possible that a software fix from Apple will be required. From Cord's Borking CarPlay to a particular car line, Borking iPhones. Another piece from Mac Rumors comes under the headline, Warning, BMW wireless charging may break iPhone 15's Apple Pay chip. Citing reports on Twitter and in its own forums, Mac Rumors says over the past week, some BMW owners have complained that their iPhone 15's NFC chip no longer works after charging the device with their vehicle's wireless charging pad. Affected customers say the iPhone goes into a data recovery mode with a white screen, and the NFC chip is no longer functional after the device reboots. While the headline mentions the phone's payment function specifically, the body of the report points out that the same NFC chip powers other functions like digital car keys. Though the reports have centered on iPhone 15 Pro and Pro Max, Mac Rumors supposes that iPhone 15 could be affected as well. For affected users, Apple has reportedly replaced their iPhones. Of course, there's somewhere between a risk and a likelihood that the BMW's charging pad will fry the NFC chips and the replacement phone too. It's unclear what the specific cause of the issue is, says Mac Rumors. It's also unclear how many customers are affected and which BMW models are affected. There's apparently been no comment on the issue from Apple. If you're checking your Apple Watch for weather, it seems likely it's cloudy with a chance of nothing. I told you last week that NosillaCast podcast's Allison Sheridan had shared an experience with her iPhone 15 Pro overheating. Not shared with you, she was having a problem with the weather complication on watchOS 10 as well. Like a lot of people, she was seeing dashes where the temperature should be. That was the case on watchOS 10.0.1. When she updated to 10.0.2, the complication worked properly again. For a bit. Not long after, it was back to double dashes. So Saturday, I'm out running errands. I look down at my modular watch face on my Apple Watch Series 7 running watchOS 10.0.1, and for the first time, staring back at me blankly is a pair of dashes where the temperature should be in the weather complication. Annoyed, I replaced it with a date. Would have driven me crazy otherwise. Then on Sunday, I got a message from Allison that after her having done nothing to make it happen, the weather complications on her watch face, one for temperature and one for UV index, were back. I switched the complication on my watch back, and I'm happy to say it was working properly as well. And how glad I was to have this tempest in a timepiece behind us. Until late Sunday evening, I got another message from Allison. not only was her weather gone again from her watch face, but from her daughter's as well. I'm not going to say I give up, but I may be done trying. Public service announcement. If you're here in the U.S., your iPhone should make some god-awful noise at you day after tomorrow. A piece from Engadget says Uncle Sam plans to conduct a nationwide alert test on Wednesday, the 4th of October. Issued by FEMA and the FCC, the piece says the cell phone portion of the test will assess wireless emergency alerts, or WEAs, nationwide. According to Engadget, the same system that issues Amber Alerts can also broadcast signals for imminent threats, public safety, and presidential notices in a national emergency. So, yeah, you kind of want to know whether that works. Messages should go out in both English and Spanish, depending on which is set as your phone's primary language. They're expected to hit around 2:20 p.m. Eastern, 11:20 a.m. Pacific. They'll be accompanied by a noise-vibration combo that Engadget says could easily be described as a jarring and obnoxious alarm that will immediately make you stop what you're doing, utter select obscenities, and pick up your phone to make it stop. That is, unless something bad actually happens. If there's an actual national emergency this Wednesday, the piece says the test will be moved to next Wednesday. See, it feels like this Wednesday might still be a good day to try it out. You know, whether there is or isn't an actual emergency. But what do I know? Apple's radioactive iPhone 12 ordeal seems to be at an end. A couple of weeks back, we heard word of a problem 3 years in the making with iPhone 12 in France. After years of steady service, the device was suddenly said by French authorities to exceed European-specific absorption rate limits. Those same authorities said Apple could probably fix the issue with a software update. Apple said it would do that, then submitted that update for approval last week. Now a piece from Cult of Mac says France has approved that fix. No word on when that update will be out to the device's users. And finally today, Apple may be going after another prestige sport. I don't know. I'm an American. To me, soccer is a prestige sport. Even soccer based in the States. And Apple may be going after another one. A report on Apple Insider says Apple is considering offering $2 billion per year for the exclusive streaming rights to Formula One coverage. Well, exclusive eventually. According to Business F1 magazine, as covered by GP blog, Apple is currently working on an offer that the Formula One group cannot refuse. Gentlemen, hide your horses. The alleged $2 billion a year offer is said to be double what the Formula One group receives for global TV rights. Unlike MLS on Apple TV, this deal would not be exclusive from the start. Assuming Cupertino nabs the rights, they would only have about 25% exclusivity. As existing rights contracts expire, the piece says, that percentage would go up, potentially hitting 100% within 5 years. It seems odd then to start by paying $2 billion. That said, the piece indicates that would be a fixed sum per year instead of seeing the price increase as the percentage increases. macOS Ken, brought to you by me and supported by people like you, patrons through Patreon. Find out more and add your support at patreon.com/macOSCan. Advertising handled by Backbeat Media. Online at backbeatmedia.com. You can reach me a couple of ways. info@macoscan.com or call 716-780-4080. Until next time, that is news from macOS Ken. I'm Ken Ray.
Ciao.